Good morning, councillors, general manager, staff, and members of the gallery and media, and welcome to the meeting. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public gallery the council meetings will be recorded and will be available after each meeting on council's website. All care will be taken to maintain the privacy of those in attendance. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, you assume your consent is given in the event your image is broadcast. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Bangarang people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who now reside in this area. I extend that respect to elders, past and present, of the Bangarang Nations. Thank you. I'll now call for any apologies, which there be none. Got full seats. And now we'll move on to absent. Apologies, absent for leave or absence. Confirmation of minutes. Would someone like to move confirmation of minutes to last meeting? Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Disclosure of interest. We have a couple of items there.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. I have two disclosures under section 451 table. First one from Councillor Meagle for report 8.4, and that being a less than significant non-pecuniary interest. And the second one being agenda item 15.1 from Councillor David Longley, being a significant non-pecuniary interest. So both those are there for table.
Thank you. Can we move?
Yeah.
Can we have a move by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour? Against? Carried. There are minutes, there be none, so we'll now move on to the General Manager's report, item number 7. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Report 7.1 is a report that the Council have been briefed on previously on a motion to present to the Murray-Darling Association Zone 1 meeting held in Albury at the end of the month. It's discussing the projects proposed for the Yanko Creek system under the Sustainable Diversion Limit Scheme through the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. The background's all there. Council has been approached by members of the public around seeking to lobby for a bit more involvement and a bit more understanding of those projects and their potential impacts on the environmental flows, particularly through summer, through those Colombo, Billabong, Yanko systems. So the recommendation there is seeking that Council note the report on that motion, and the motion being that they seek the support of the Murray-Darling Association in relation to ensuring the proposed project do not detrimentally affect the flows through the system, and that the environmental, ag and social factors are appropriately considered.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Longmire. All in favour? Aye. Councillor Thomas, would you like to? I'm sorry.
That's okay. All good. So just in light of the recommendation that's gone forward, and as noted in our workshop, we were talking about the Murray-Darling Basin, and we were talking about this motion that was coming forward, and I endorse what they're doing. I'm really pleased that Council is seeking the support of the Murray-Darling Association on this issue. But just a little bit of background information with the Sustainable Diversion Limit is that there's 3 types of water are counted in the Water Act of 2007, which the Murray-Darling Basin sits under. And in that Act, in Section 3, it just really needs to be highlighted because we're talking about that environment, agricultural and social factors are appropriately considered. And within the Act, it actually states that in giving effect to those agreements to promote the use and management of the basin water resources in a way that optimises economic, social and environmental outcomes. So therefore, I just really needed to highlight that to Council today. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Kelly, all in favour? Against? Carried.
7.2 is also a water-related project, Lake Urena Precinct. The purpose of this report is to update the Council on the Lake Urena Precinct project. So Lake Urena is one of the largest natural lakes in the Riverina Murray. It's around 16,000 acres in the area and estimated to hold around 250,000 megalitres when full. It's a natural system in between the Murrumbidgee and the Murray rivers. This report just works forward further the work of Urena Shire Council in promoting the area out there. So this report just gives a brief outline of where the project sits within our plans and projects, and the recommendation is to note the report on the Lake Arena Precinct project, to endorse in principle the concept plan, which is a reworked version, and to continue to investigate suitable grants and to exhibit that Lake Arena District concept plan.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Water, especially when you have dry years such as this, is at the top of everybody's minds. This is a very ambitious project. It's a very big project, but it's a really important project because it is probably the biggest water reservoir between the two rivers, and I think it has a great potential, especially in these dry years when we can secure some of that water, hopefully going forward, to maximise all those triple bottom line effects that Councillor Thomas just mentioned. So happy to move that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Councillor White.
Mr Mayor, if I could, just looking over that precinct plan and some of the other things that come up with Lake Arena back when we first come on council, and looking at the aquatic centre, just wondering, there was parcels of land that are mentioned just in that recommendation there that were Crown land, and I know some of them at the time were coming up for the ability to lease, that were leased privately. Just wondering whether that's our fingers on the pulse for that, as whether we are watching those Crown land parcels, because I believe a couple of those will give us access to the water, to the public, and I'm sure that probably our area of council is looking at it, but I think that's something we've got to make sure we acquire those parcels.
Yeah, and that's, I might just have a brief comment on that. We have been working with Crown Lands, having discussions. We've identified all those parcels, right from the aquatic centre right through to the lake. So some of them are committed with LOS, so there's conversation happening there. The Crown Lands is ongoing conversation. We've got the Minister's approval. As far as that approval is, what do you call it, approval in principle, that we have to work with the landowner, the current lessees. It's a grazing lease, 12-month grazing lease. They are non-resident lessees, so we've got to try and have a meeting, which we've done a number of times, with the lessees to either work with them, they carry out their lease, but we can go in and start opening up to the public and go forward. So yeah, we're certainly on it. It's just a long, slow process, and one that we've been trying to push a lot harder lately with visits from the Minister. Thank you. Thanks for that. Councillor Thomas.
I just noticed within that report, in that plan, that you had mentioned about the Aboriginal tourism plan from 2017 to 2020. I haven't actually seen that document, but I find it interesting though that other committees that we tend to sit on, they're really talking about creating some linkages and connections with an Aboriginal site trail. So from the Murray, you can connect from the Murray right through to Urana and further and beyond. So whether there's opportunity to actually get together and have a copy of that plan, so then we can maybe workshop it and just have some more stakeholders in the room to discuss those options. Because obviously when you're dealing with those significant parts that occur within our shire, we're actually treading on other people's inheritance, land, all that kind of thing, and it's actually quite sensitive. So whether we need to explore that a little bit more.
Councillor Thomas, some of the land in particular that we're talking about, even on the maps dating back 80 years old, were identified for public use back in those days. So therefore, I think the grazing lease came into effect at 12 months. But in those particular parcels, there's a lot of cultural significance in that. The female skeleton that was found there back in the 86 was the oldest remains ever found for the Wiradjuri people in Australia. So there's some quite significant parcels in that area and the national park as well. So yeah, a lot of interest, and we have contacted the Wiradjuri office and organised. I think we've got a meeting with them in a couple of weeks, so that we're all together for the journey. Yeah. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
7.3 is the report on the Stronger Communities funding, the minor grants and the major projects. It relates to the $10 million council received as part of the merger to build stronger communities. Council have been workshopping at length. It's a terrific result, I consider, on behalf of the staff and the council, particularly the volunteers and other contractors that are working so hard to deliver all those projects. So the round one projects, there was 18 projects in round one for 611,000, almost 612,000. As at the end of October, all 18 have been successfully completed. It's a significant effort, including by Council's merger project office, to manage those projects through to fruition. Round two was another round that was advertised in the $50,000 limit. There was 13 projects across that round with about 276,000. 8 of those 13 have been successfully completed and 4 are almost completed. So those are all listed out there for council as well. And then the major projects was 15,000. So there's 15 projects across an allocation of 8.85 million. So those projects quite significant. 3 of those have completed their construction. That's the Cora RSL Park renewal, the Urana Netball Court renewal, the Howlong Tennis Court renewal. There's 7 others that are running through right now, and there's four of the more major ones, including the Cora Swimming Pool, that are still working through scoping and working towards design tenders and the like. And the Cora Golf Club is a major project under that, and that's officially completed and open. That's been a great success as well. So the report's there before the council. They're seeking to vary the funding. There was a well-managed program, so there was an allowance in there, including the government requiring the interest be returned back to that program. So the council have been workshopped through some variations within those major projects that are still yet to come through, and even a couple of the minors. So the recommendation there is quite detailed, but it does outline a lengthy list there of variations and inclusions just to make all those projects finish and get across the line more holistically. And that's certainly the direction of councillors as well as the staff and those committees. We're very grateful to be able to receive the additional funding to make sure they are fully delivered. So that's before the council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longmire, and I'll just get a second by Councillor Whitechurch. Councillor Longmire, would you like to comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. In regard to the eventuality of the amalgamation between the 2 former shires, it's with great pride I can stand here today as an advocate for that journey, to sense that what a wonderful opportunity with the amalgamation contribution from the government, that all these projects have been able to be implemented, and certainly it gives a lot of confidence to the community, especially in the smaller ones. And so in general, I think the public are really confident of, or able to say that it's been well distributed. And in that regard, I guess we look up and say to support the amalgamation. I'm not sure how many other councils throughout the state have got this opportunity to be able to say it's on its way, it's doing a good job. And if you can use it in this terminology, you've only got to look at the scoreboard.
And Councillor Longmire added to your comments, I think, as well as the state, that they certainly have done what they said as far as they've put funding, they've funded us very well, hopefully with more to come. But I think congratulations to the council and staff too, that the way we've looked diversely across the whole New Shire area and made sure that we didn't leave any communities or villages out. So I think that's a great look for a new merged council. Councillor Thomas.
Just to reiterate what my fellow councillor Longmire said, it's a great opportunity to move forward within our community. I just wanted to highlight that maybe this could also be considered an opportunity, because the Kiffins Reserve management plan is still in draft form from 2013. I was just wondering if this was an opportunity to re-engage those stakeholders, considering that it will actually form an inaugural part of the tourism trail that has been developed between Mulwala and Cora. So it's really nice if we could maybe get some format of a working group together and look at that draft management plan for Kiffins Reserve and move it forward past the date of 2013.
Excellent.
Might ask Chris to just comment on that one, because we've got a pretty good program through the Crown Land for that funding, for those reserve upgrades.
Yeah, sure. So we've received, as part of a number of changes of the Crown Land Act, we received some funding for approximately $70,000 from Crown Land to support the implementation and development of plans of management for all of our Crown Land, of which we have a significant amount of Crown Land. And so we'll be rolling out a program of under that funding, which should be very helpful.
Thank you. If there be no further comments, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
7.4 is asking for a bit of a holiday. 7.4, councillors, January Ordinary Council Meeting 2019. The report just allows for a discussion on whether the council require specifically an ordinary meeting, or whether they would seek to not hold a meeting unless required, in which case the Mayor would call an extraordinary meeting, and that's the way the recommendation goes.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Kunkel, seconder, so. Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments, Councillor? Sounds pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Councillor Miles.
Yeah, I think under the circumstances, if something does happen, you can call an extraordinary meeting, or it'll cover the rest for us.
Yeah, excellent, sure. Okay, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried. Thank you. I'll now ask for,
7.5 is
yeah.
just the presentation by external auditors. So Brad will be here from Crowe Howard. Is that lined up for now?
Yes.
Oh, he is, of course.
Good morning and welcome, Brad.
Thank you.
We'll just continue as part of the meeting. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So this is a little bit unusual the way the Local Government Act works. You may have felt like you've seen your financial statements a couple of times now, and then they come back again for the opportunity for the auditor just to come to council and talk through the conduct report. So New South Wales Local Government, you have two opinions consistent with all other entities. You receive an audit opinion that says your financial statements are true and fair. The template format is largely a commodity type outcome, and from a project management perspective, what we wanted to do was deliver on time, and so for Federation Council, our audit reports were signed on the 30th of October, so one day before the deadline. 101 councils achieved that outcome. There were about 27 that did not lodge by the deadline, and there's some astronomical numbers, the ones that come through in the 28th, 29th, 30th of October. So from an audit office perspective, I think they're still dealing with the challenges of the sheer volume of clearing the accounts before the 31st of October. But Federation, we lodged on time, so really pleasing because we were prepared and ready. It was just making it through those final steps in the process. For council this year, we've now got an Audit Risk Improvement Committee up and running, so that's an extra step in the governance pathway that will help give us better integrity to the numbers, but it's an extra step to navigate on the way through of our financial statements. But we certainly went through the ARIC committee with the financial statements. We achieved an unqualified or a clean audit opinion, so that's really what we set out to do. We did it on time and we got a clean opinion. So they're the two key things about what we're trying to achieve in our project delivery. The key item the Audit Office issue you is a conduct report which just gives some snapshot commentary around the financial statements period on period. The challenge for Federation is effectively it's only got 2 periods worth of data, and 2017 is about 15, an awkward sort of period. So it makes the profit and loss quite difficult to comprehend year on year. And then what makes it even more challenging is that in the prior period in 2017, we had that $15 million worth of one-off grant funding tipped in, and the way the accounting rules work is that was income in the year of receipt, and then we're spending it progressively. So when we get to the year-on-year profits, what you'll see is a really large profit in 2017 because of the 10 and the 5 million that come in principally, and then there was also we received additional instalments of BAG money, so the financial assistance grant also gave us 6 instalments. So 2017 year was a bumper period for money coming in, and then in 18 some of the stronger communities spending was done in the 17 period, but progressively some of it's also done and executed, as we've just heard, in the 18 year. So until we get a sort of true line in the sand of what's a real financial period, is about 19 will start to be that, but we do have some of that lagging stronger communities funding still being deployed in 18, where we receive the income back over here and the expenses happening now. And that's a little bit why we use the restrictions to try and say to councillors, well, yes, we've got this much money, but we're restricting some of it away because it's actually tagged for particular purposes. So, from the income statement, year on year, or period on period, it presents as though that your rates and annual charges went down. That's not actually true, because they went up by 1.5% capping. It's the period that it covers. But more or less, the 13.3 versus 13.4, if you understand that the 13.4 is fundamentally covering a 15-month period, so there's an extra quarter of instalments in there, for want of better terminology. The uplift was 1.5%, which was the maximum cap that we were allowed for the 2018 period. User charges and fees presents as being stable, and grants and contributions, and this is where you can see the 32.4 down to 16.1. That's effectively that $15 million different, and really that's around the 10 million Stronger Communities Fund and the 5 million for the two-way merger council is the key difference there. Your operating result encouragingly still looks positive at the 2.5 million. In the Fit for the Future analysis, what the assessment was if you backed out capital grants where you're in the black or in the red, council's in the red there, but largely what I would flag to those earlier comments, it's a lot of the spending that we're doing in 18 coming from funding that was received in 17 tied up in that 32.4. So let's wait until the 2019 year to get a more level playing field on how that presents. Over the page, there's a quick snapshot on cash flows. What you'd say in your cash flows there's a little blue bar that you basically don't see on the chart, and that's because council has fairly minimal debt. We've got about $4 million worth of borrowings that sat there year on year, and if you like, because of the scale of the sites there down the side in steps of 10 million, all we really had was a little bit of interest incurred and repayments made, so it gets out to be about the same. It doesn't hit the scale. We were cash flow positive from operations, and then we spent some net on infrastructure, property, plant, equipment, and that's the same as every other regional and rural council around. So that's the statement of cash flows. The next page gives you a snapshot of your cash holdings. So the top of that page says we've got external restricted funds of 31 million, and pretty much the same as the prior year. And the external restrictions are where the funds are held and need to be spent on the purpose for which they were raised. A lot of that's the water and sewer coming through. In terms of internal restrictions, this is where we're holding a large chunk of that would be the grant money still to be deployed, and then the FAG money held in advance runs through there. Again, stayed relatively consistent. It can be changed by vote of council, but at the moment we've got 11.3 million, or at 30 June, 11.3 million tagged in internal restrictions, leaving us with free cash, untagged cash of about 1.2 million, and similar level to the prior year. So we've got strong cash held of around 43 million. When you go through the restrictions, we get down to a satisfactory level of cash held as unrestricted, saying the council can pay its debts as and when they fall due. Then the conduct report steps through performance ratios. This will obviously have a little bit more meaning next year. Federation's only been in existence for 2 periods, so there's only 2 periods reported. If you looked at some of your neighbouring councils that presents with 3 years worth of data, it's because the entity's been in existence for longer. Your operating performance ratio, ideally you'd like that to be positive. For Federation, it's been positive in both years. In 18, the rate's 3.9. A range of your neighbours are tracking probably in the 5, 6, 7 range, but as explained, there's a range of spending that we're doing on one-off grant funding that's pulling that down. But both years reported in the positive is where you need to be from a ratio perspective. The own source operating revenue, a lot of rural and councils find this one a challenge, because for every grant you successfully secure, it has a negative impact on this ratio. What we're applying is one size fits all at 60%. The reality is rural and regional councils ordinarily would have a lower ratio benchmark applied, but the audit office is using one size fits all. So 60% is the one measure. Interestingly, this year we got really close, and perhaps if we'd rounded 59.3 up, we could have made it 60, but Shane couldn't find 0.3 anywhere in his numbers. Right on the tag, it's a real challenge. I mean, really, the councils that have got parking meters and higher use of items sit more at that 60%. We've got a very high orientation towards attracting grant funding, which helps with the previous graph. The operating surplus has a negative impact on this ratio. So I think understanding the nature of the type of council we are, you sort of take it as information, but let's not get too hung up on this ratio. There you go. So, yeah. Yes, it does.
Yes,
That's true. Yes. And so there is some uniqueness about different councils because not everyone has a sale yard with a user fee platform. But again, it's not the most used sale yard in the area either. The next ratio is an unrestricted current ratio. This is unique to local government. What it's saying, it takes into account the restrictions that you've got on your funds. It says ideally the benchmark line there is saying you should have $1.50 of cash in your pocket or asset in your pocket for every $1 of liability. So 1 for 1, 50-cent buffer, that makes sense. We've got $1.90, so you'd say that's a safe margin to say we can pay our debts as and when they fall due, so people can put their hand on their heart on the councillor's statement and sign to say yes, we think we can, we're a solvent enterprise. The debt service cover ratio, because council has such low level of debt relative, I mean it's $4 million, it's not a small number, but relative to councils of your amalgamated size now, $4 million is quite a low level of debt. We satisfactorily passed this metric of at least 2 times and tracking close to 40 times in terms of debt service cover, pay both the principal and interest repayments out of free cash flow. The next one is a rates and annual charges outstanding ratio. The benchmark is keeping it below 10%. You'll see a bit of a step up there, period on period. It still sits just below the benchmark. We've got a result of 9.7, so we're compliant with the ratio, albeit that the finance team, certainly through the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee, were attentive to the step up in period year on year. And so there's ongoing focus and effort on making sure that the rates and annual charges that are outstanding have a process that's followed and we're appropriately communicating with our ratepayers to turn what is effectively an asset of being a debtor into cash in the bank. Our cash expense cover ratio is another liquidity measure. It says if we turned off income coming in, how many months worth of expenses could we pay? The grey line is set at 3 months or 90 days, being the measure that you'd be able to go to the bank and organise alternate funding in that period. We've got something like 24 months worth of expense coverage, so that's 2 years. So it demonstrates the council's got sufficient cash on hand to pay its debts as and when they fall due.
We'll nearly get to the end of their term.
You will nearly get to the end of your term. That hasn't quite been presented that way.
That's a consolidated approach.
Let's not do it by fund. And then the last ratio is one that's pulled out of Special Schedule 7. This is really pleasing. Like as it presents at the moment, you'd almost frame it. So a lot of councils are really challenged by, in terms of this. The issue is infrastructure assets are a long list asset, 30, 40 years. You've got an asset management plan that runs over 10 years that you'll have all seen and adopted. So with your own finances, you're not anticipating that you will spend dollar for dollar, but what this graph is saying, for every dollar of depreciation on building an infrastructure asset, theoretically, you should be spending an equivalent amount on renewals to maintain that asset at a similar level. And for Federation, we've achieved 100 cents in the dollar of depreciation for every year. So, end of story. Because of all the grant money coming in. So, that's the next level down. You don't need to know the details. But I suspect as this goes on, we won't be tracking above the benchmark every year for, by its very nature. The graph only presents 3 years worth of data, and it's very real to understand that if you did a new expect that renewal expenditure in the subsequent early years would be lower. So there are reasons for it. As it presents at the moment, it's a shining story for Federation. So Shane and Kim didn't get too stretched with any new accounting standards this year. So they were some disclosure orientated ones there. There is some number changes coming in the 19 year. That council will need to address and work with. There's some provision for doubtful debts and leases changes that are coming through. But the Office of Local Government ran some workshops. I think it was a Wagga one early November. Melbourne Cup Day. So there's some training and activities going on around helping councils more broadly get across what those accounting standard changes are. And the final comment there is that we found no instances of legislative non-compliance during the execution of the external audit process. So from our side, we had stable team from our side, stable team from council. That was a key contributor to the success of executing the project on time. We're really happy. Happy to take questions, albeit that it was 30 June, it was a while ago now.
Councillor Eagle.
Thanks very much, Brad. Really good numbers if you look at them on the top level, and congratulations to the staff for doing that. They seem to be somewhat, I won't say muddied, but clouded by the significant amount of grant funding that we've received, and you've already alluded to the fact that unfortunately probably won't be ongoing on that level. Is it too early yet to look further into the coming years and where we sit so we can make more astute decisions going forward rather than just looking backwards at what was a really good year?
Very tricky for me to be able to say anything too concrete on that, but I suppose the platform to an extent has been presented. Exactly where that goes and what happens for the council in the next 2 to 3 years is yet to be determined. That funding hasn't fully washed out. You know, we're still holding 40-odd million in the bank. The position of rate capping is a bit of a challenge. Special rate variations exist. So there's still a couple of different levers, and obviously I think people would like to think that there's going to be ongoing opportunities for grant funding. There's certainly some advocacy work that's being done around that.
And I suppose the funding, the future funding is going to play a big part in that, but like, it's very hard to predict how our future is going to hold as far as funding goes.
Because, if I contrasted that against a range of the other amalgamation councils that we're dealing with, they aren't at the same level of collaboration as what Federation would be, and are finding some significant challenges around deploying the integration and a lot of the synergies that were supposed to come from the amalgamation process. And so a lot of those are still challenged with executing even their annual financial statements and having council positioned as well as what the stats would suggest that Federation's been able to achieve across its broader boundaries.
I could make a comment there in the sense that the grant funds are producing a lot of new assets, but the underlying budget structure coming from both previous councils very much like they were. So the pressure is really on in those areas. So it's great that the overall result looks as good as it does, but there will be real challenges coming up to this next budget process.
Underline, your key issue is you've got a whole bunch of roads that you're expected to maintain, and on year one they're an asset, and every year after that I'm not sure that they are.
Yeah, just a comment. You said something in relation to depreciation. You depreciate for whatever dollar spent. Depreciation should be very similar.
The renewal spend?
Renewal spend.
That's what that graph is trying to tease out or show you, is that to maintain that asset in a similar condition, you should spend an equivalent amount on renewal. But what I would say in reality, and the engineering staff might say, is we might build the asset up to here, and then with a careful plan, we understand we might let the asset deteriorate down to a certain point because we know we're going to do certain work, more significant work at a point in time over here, as opposed to every year continually doing renewal to the equivalent level of depreciation. Because it doesn't make sense to get the road contractor to do that. You might do them in fits and starts. So you see that graph actually curve and move around. But what the graph is trying to show you, that if you are not renewing for the level of depreciation, fundamentally you have an asset deterioration. The further complication is you have flood events or different things that happen that then deteriorate your grant funding to do that, which changes the asset management plan overall.
Yeah, and where I was alluding was are you depreciating over the lifetime of that asset? So the new assets we're currently putting in, the depreciation, is that getting spread over the life of the asset?
So the difficulty with that ratio is that it's about the average. On average, we should be spending equivalent to our depreciation rate. but you're not going to spend it all on 1 year. And one of the problems we get into is when we've got brand new assets, a lot of brand new assets, we don't have to spend it. So it looks available to us. So if we jump in and use those funds that we should be putting, holding back for later years, we have this problem of, then we're having a shortfall. And that's where the backlog originally came from. And the backlog is still in that order of 12 million plus. So we can't forget that.
Yeah, I remember in the Fit for the Future had the depreciation worked on roads where that was the whole road or just the top surface of the road. You could come up with a lot of different results if you wanted to. Was there a question out there, Councillor White?
Yes, well, I think, and what Mr Parker's saying, I totally agree with, but in the light of getting 15 million and these excessive grants that are going to be obviously one-off, we're never going to meet that benchmark as far as the replacement, because if you were generating your own income to build these assets, well obviously once you built the asset, that income would continue to be coming in and you'd be able to maintain it. But in light of this report that's come out now, and it's great, and Brad's identified some benchmarks that we're exceeding and we're there, next year clearly we're going to be below all those for obvious reasons. The government are probably watching our amalgamated council very closely, and they'll be looking at these reports, and I just wonder whether there'll be a report brought out from all of the amalgamated councils just to see how that highs and lows is going to follow through, because it's not so much next year that there's going to be the problem, it's going to be the second and the third year that it's really going to amplify and become an issue, because our asset base is going to be so high, but our depreciation's going to be sitting up there and we're not going to have money coming in for all that sort of thing. So, I think it needs to be flagged at some point.
It's already shifted because of the new assets, rough figures, 500,000. The revaluation that we had to do with some assets in this last period shifted us 1.4 million. So we already got there 2 million that we didn't, this is general fund, that we didn't have issues with in our accounts. It hasn't really changed then, it's the same roads, so forth, but you can see our results definitely won't be as good as what you see here.
And hopefully there's going to be some economic returns in our accounts as well on some of those new assets.
The Urana project,
Of
for
course.
instance.
Councillor Thompson.
So who sets the benchmarking standards?
That were reported in the graphs there. So they're listed from IPART. So the audit office have adopted them, but IPART were the original authors of where a range of those metrics come from, which was tagged in Fit for the Future.
Do they vary much between?
There's sort of, sorry, they vary.
Oh, do they vary from year to year with the financial year?
No. So those benchmarks have been stable over, the same benchmark has had line of sight over the last 2 or 3 years. There is advocacy to try and get them tailored and shifted. So there's some that would clearly have, rural regional councils should have a different benchmark applied. We would think.
Compared to metropolitan?
So in own source revenue, for sure, like 60% is ridiculous. And if you're a water county council, you sell water by, that's your stock in trade, it's super easy to achieve it. So we waste half a page on the graph, that doesn't mean much. This is the issue of, a council is a council. Well, actually, there's probably a few different styles inside the 128. I think we're still working along that journey. And to your point, some of the stuff is shifting because, currently there's a push for Crown Lands to come out and go to councils and say, well, no, they're yours as well. And there's ongoing maintenance with those around keeping that asset to a satisfactory standard, where on year one the asset coming in is a bump to income, but thereafter you've got the maintenance costs associated with that asset. So there's a range of things that are sort of progressively shifting as we move along.
And obviously, at the end of the day, as a state, the economics that come out of these regions, we all talk about the costs and that sort of thing, but the economics that come out of the region are very significant, and of course that reflects back in your funding back in the council. So it's not just this picture, it is a bigger picture as well. Do you put the fag screens in your return, your 60% unsourced revenue?
No, excludes all grants.
Yeah.
And we did when the Fit for the Future figures were here.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
just say in summary, I just want to thank Brad and the team at Crowe Howard, and especially our finance staff, Kim and Shane. It's actually Shane's birthday today, I just learned when I read an email, so he's come in and done a great job as well, and all our staff out through there to work on this result. We know there's challenges ahead, no doubt about that, but I think we also need to reflect on what's been done. Even as a council, to put the two finance systems together early days, a lot of things like that the public don't necessarily see, but it builds a stronger council, and I think it's a great thing that we're under the New South Wales Government Audit Office, and I've heard complain about that, about it's not so much a one-off audit now, it's continually improvement, but that's why they merged councils, to get more transparency and consistency across our appreciation and other figures for our community. So I just want to say well done on the efforts to get it over the line this year. The finance staff always look really weathered and beaten towards the end of this time, so I just want to say, yeah, really terrific effort.
Well, and ladies and gentlemen, I think it'd be appropriate for another round of applause for Shane for his birthday. So
40.
It's also Brad's last one, apparently.
That's true, yeah.
Danielle takes over, so
Yeah, it's gone for a much prettier version.
especially well done for you, Brad, yeah.
Thank you.
For that work, yeah.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, that concludes the general manager's report. We'll now move on to Director of Corporate and Community Services report. Very good. When you're ready.
Thank you. 8.1 is a recommendation around two events we'd like to sponsor from our event sponsorship program, which is the 2019 combined Australian Barefoot Water Ski National Championship, recommending $2,000 towards that, and $5,000 to upgrade the ramps for the Australian Billy Cart Championship. So that will obviously be something that will support that event for a long period of time.
Okay, can I move it, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. Right, Councillor Whitechurch?
Mr Mayor, I just acknowledge the council staff for putting forward these grant applications and accepting them for the council, because you look at those events that are being run and they've now attracted a lot of people. And I talk of the triathlon that was in Mulwala recently, 1,500 competitors or something year in, year out. These sort of events are really putting the whole area on the map, and the Barefoot Water Ski National Championships, I mean, that's bringing people from all over Australia and all age groups, and it's exposing our lake and our whole shire and the water ski park. So I congratulate council for looking forward to that, and I think we should continue that.
Thank you, Councillor Whitechurch. Nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
8.2 relates to a Australia Day celebration and community event expression process that we held for the Shire's celebrations this year, which will be held in Mulwala, and a great outcome been achieved with the Mulwala Water Ski Club and the Mulwala Soccer Group going to work in partnership to deliver what will be a pretty exciting event. So we're recommending that Council invest $8,000 to support the Australia Day proceedings in Mulwala, and obviously look for those groups to deliver that event.
Excellent. The bar is set fairly high, but anyway, we've got to move to Councillor Kennedy and a second to Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas, did you wish to make?
I just really wondering, because I actually go to the Mulwala Progress Association meeting, so they're actually really excited to think that they can co-host with the Water Ski Club, because they, not as a volunteer group, they actually were feeling a bit of pressure. I think they might have had to be a standalone group to take on this event, but now that they've got the opportunity to work with the ski club, they're actually like okay, let's move forward and start organising a brilliant day. All good.
Excellent. Councillor Wales.
And being Mulwala first, I'm looking forward to going down this year.
Yeah, that's great. All right. We'll put it then, councillors. All in favour? Against, carried.
8.3 relates to the Remembrance Day 100th anniversary services, which was well attended by councillors. So that's just for council's information of that, a very important day.
Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by councillor Neagle. Any questions or comments on your remembrance days? Councillor Wales.
Yes, I can say with the opening ceremony, 100 years is a long time, but it's good we have technology nowadays, because when we got out there, they had no music, so Leanne Dallas got her phone and she got the ode on the phone, and I got the ode on the national anthem on my phone. So when it came, we played it through the phone, and went through it, although I must admit, when I got down the load, the national anthem, lost it, and when I got back again, an ad came on first. But anyway, all good.
It all worked. Very good. All right, councillors, we'll put it all in favour. Against carried.
The big words.
8.4 is the community, round one of our community grants program. The committee has met to review the applications that were received with that. The total of the applications, total of funding requested was 33,978, and the committee have recommended 30,200 in funding. There was one application which didn't meet the requirements and criteria of the application process, so they weren't considered. And you'll see there's a table there showing the original application amount requested versus there have been some for a small reduction in amount awarded. So recommending, a total of 30,200 to be allocated to those groups for those a variety of really great community initiatives.
Thank you. Moved by councillor Thomas, seconded by councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Kennedy.
It's actually quite privileged that me and Councillor Wales and Councillor Longley, who wasn't here that day, actually get to go through the girls, do a great job at submitting all these things. Like, there's a fair bit of reading involved, and it's great to see we could actually give something to nearly everyone that put it in, which is good to share it around the whole community, and it's great to see that we just not even got what they all wanted, but they've all got something, so it's good to share it around. It's great to see.
Good job. Councillor Thomas.
I was just going to say thank you to those community organisations who have made applications to council for their community grants, because it actually does mean that they don't have to possibly get that raffle book out for the next 12 months or whatever, because you've got to remember these are grassroots organisations volunteering for our communities, so well done.
For sure. And councillor Ross.
Thank you, sir. I can't add anything more than Councillor Kennedy and Thomas said, but it's good for the community and what they achieve by these grants, benefit what they put forward for the events they have on.
Yeah, no, it's a great job. All right then, councillors, if there's nothing further, I'll put it all in favour. Against carried.
Great, and 8.5 is a recommendation around some additional funding that we're seeking from council to run another grant program, which we're seeking $6,500 for the year to support some small community initiatives for the drought situation. This is off the back of a forum that we've held at council with a range of stakeholders, and feedback that we received around that in terms of what council could do to support the community at this time, and the opportunity to get together is very important in times of hardship, and we're looking at developing a small program. Nothing is complicated as our community grant program. We want to make the application process as simple as possible. And these will generally be for functions, initiatives that bring these communities together to escape for some relief around the current situation. So we have a recommendation in there around a women's dinner and workshop that the Riverina Rural Women's Group are currently organising in New Manor, and that's $1,245 with some additional in-kind support from council. So that's planned for the 6th of December. And then we also just this weekend, just gone, wanted to note that the Youth Council ran a absolutely fantastic event in Oakland with a movie night, and there were over 30 young people that attended that event. So so just with that recommendation, seeking $6.5.
Moved by councillor Longmire, seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
So just looking at the recommendation, should the recommendation, I just want to clarify with the 12.45 for the Rural Women's Workshop and dinner, is that included in the 6.5 or is that additional to the 6.5?
That's already included in 6.5, yeah, we've increased the amount to go out for that, yeah.
Okay. Councillor Longmire.
I think just supporting the opportunity, I mentioned at the workshop, I think we don't have at the moment a weather station in our shire. I think that's the thing that we should also, I'm not sure if it comes under this opportunity, but I think we should pursue that as we discussed the other day in regard to having our own weather station. Because of the area of our shire now, it's important that we get the readings that apply to what is actually happening in the shire, not somewhere else at the moment. So I think if there's something there, Ms. Kay, we can follow through as well.
Excellent. Good idea, because there's a bit of disparity there.
Well, just to clarify, there was, yes, certainly a list of actions that were considered following that workshop, feedback from the group around what council could do. So we've actually had a staff meeting on Thursday, just looking at where we're at with those. And so this was just one of those actions, and certainly that's down as a list of, you know, we can't not guaranteeing delivery on everything that was suggested, but we're certainly looking at what we can achieve, yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anything further, the councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Okay.
Against, carried.
So 8.6, council will record a presentation from Forest Street People and Machinery Club seeking to purchase the parcel of land near the aerodrome that has been occupied for some time. We have, you know, investigated that request and recommending that council support that. We would, you know, we're noting that that offer of $50,000 is significantly below what that land would be worth. We've only looked at Value General's current valuation on that. We haven't gone to the extent of getting an independent valuation. But it is, we've recommended in the report that we look at if the sale is to proceed. We want to protect that the future use of that land, so that it is always for this purpose, community purpose. So we would have a restricted covenant on the contract. But given the reduction in price to the group, we're recommending that we publicly advertise that proposal, and there'll be the opportunity for other groups to or individuals to provide feedback, and then that would be subject to a further report following that feedback to council before the sale is to proceed. I've also recommended that the group cover the cost, council's legal costs in doing that, which shouldn't exceed $2,000.
Okay, would someone like to move that? Moved by councillor Wales, seconded by councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Wales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I believe that that's a good little club out there. There's a lot of activity goes on out there, and please us to go past by Queensland. There's so much going on there. They've done a great job, all the building people there. I think the key word is we can buy back at the same price as they told us.
Yeah, it should help our asset register. Bit on the positive. Okay, thank you, councillors. If there's nothing further, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
And the annual report, 8.7, is the presentation of council's annual report for 17-18 financial year, and our report again. This was the last term of the former council's delivery program. So upon amalgamation, we merged the two existing delivery programs, and we've been reporting on that. So moving forward, we have the opportunity to report on the Federation Council delivery program. So obviously, the report contains a lot of regulation, compliance reporting requirements, and the report against the delivery program. So that's for council's information, and we will submit that to the minister as required. required, within 5 months of the end of financial year.
Thank you. Do I have a move, councillors? Moved by councillor Longley, seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments?
Just want to make a quick comment a bit on the financial statements which form the back end of this annual report, but certainly through Christie's and Heidi especially, had a lot of work to do to gather up all that information across so many different units and departments, and it's very hard for people to give that information up when they're trying to work on the day-to-day and work it forward. So it is a terrific report outlining broadly, high level, where the council got to across that 17-18 period in terms of that delivery of those many actions, and we're, like Christy had said, there's a really good new community strategic plan and another set of documents we're working forward. We're already halfway through this year almost, so, but yeah, just a great effort by Heidi and Christy's team to pull this information together.
Excellent. Councillor Thomas. Loads before Dylan.
It's a really comprehensive report, obviously 215 pages of it, so it's like you've been pulled together overnight. I just noticed that there was the Saleyards business review. Is there a timeline associated with that?
Yeah, sure. So actually, the organisation is currently reviewing all business plans across all units, so they're all due completion in December this year. So you'll have, business plans and Saleyards this year. Yeah.
Excellent. Councillor Neagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to pass on my congratulations to the Staff Aid for compiling that 215-page report. What I probably wanted to highlight how busy this council has been in the 17-18 year, and whilst there was a tremendous amount of, it probably seems like ducks on the pond, all the work's being done under the water, it did show or give some indication on the amount of work that perhaps we as councillors and the organisation have together delivered over a period of time. There was a lot in there, and it shows just how much work all that grant money did incur. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing further, councillors. I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
An important item is 8.8, which is our record disposal policy, which is important. Council has frameworks in place to manage its records, and we have been very working very hard in this space, particularly our records officer, Emily Sharp. And as required by the State Records Act, we need to review and set records in accordance with each different type of record will have different requirements in terms of its retention period. So this allows us overall to be more productive in what we're doing in terms of our ability to quickly access the relevant records. So I'm recommending that Council adopt that record disposal policy.
Moved by councillor Weil, seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments? Councillor Weil.
Just a silly question. How do we actually get rid of the hard copy? How do you do that?
Well, all of our records. So we're actually working. Definitely not a.
I'll retract the silly now.
Yeah. So we're actually, the first thing I should say is that we're working very diligently to ensure that all of our records of the past are scanned and digitised appropriately. So it requires physical review. We have a huge number of records that are digital, and we keep them in containers that, so they're filed in containers that have their sentencing. So depending on, some records we are required to keep for 50 years, some only have retention periods of 5 years, some 20 years. So then the records officer is reviewing to ensure that, when that retention period comes up, so this is our records management system TRIM, that prompts that, we're reviewing the record. She will consult with the respective owner of the record to ensure that there aren't any other reasons as to why we shouldn't dispose of. So she'll have a sentencing plan, and she'll prepare a report to sentence a whole host of records, and then get the respective managers to sign off on that. So there's a bit of work in it. I should just say, and obviously we have a report on that today in terms of the building digitisation project. We have 100 years of building records, which we're through the amalgamation funding. We are digitising all of those records, so there's going to be some great efficiencies and improvements in customer service because of that. That's going to give a rich tick booths in the space, absolutely. So some ultimately will be securely shredded, yeah, absolutely.
Just why I asked that, because when I was in the police, they used to take all that, and I reckon a lot more secret than we got here, and they used to take them out to brick kilns to Jidra, to the Australian furnace.
Councillor Longmire.
Just a quick comment, Mr Mayor, if I may, to Ms Kate, make sure you keep Neil, what's his name? Martin, make sure you keep him.
Nothing further, I'll put it, councillors. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
I just have to say that obviously that's a great example of why our management record is so important. We need to have systems in place so that we're not depending on the history that someone might have, for the last 40 years. Yeah, good call. 8.9. The report to council was previously reported on the implications of the state budget, and I wanted to give council an understanding of what that means for council this year. So, given the reduction of funding, we have lost approximately 9% of so there's 8% less than what we were proposing in our budget this year, which equates to $9,000 less funding for library services, which, as an example, the implications of that's the funding that we use to run all of our library programs that are very well received throughout the council area. So the good news is that there has been a huge amount of advocacy to improve the budget situation, and there have been some promises made in terms of increased funding for the next 4 years, but we certainly keep advocating for that to ensure that does become a reality. And what we want to see is an ongoing commitment to funding. So not in 4 years' time, then we go back to less than 7% of the total funding. The Federation Council is spending $500,000 on library services a year, and the state government, this is a regulated service, and we're required to deliver library services by the Library Act, and we're down to just 7% of the total library cost. I'm sure the Council Thomas or Law would have more to say.
Moved by Councillor Neagle and seconded by Councillor Thomas. Happy to Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Law. Questions, Councillor Neagle?
Just a quick comment in support of this recommendation, because it recently came out by local government New South Wales in the amount of cost shifting that the state have burdened on local government to the tune of some $820 million. And this is probably one of the classic cases where they say, here's libraries, you run them, but we're not going to give you any money to run them, and we expect you to do a sensational job. And so it's really important that we do continue to advocate, not the one-off recently announced injection, very grateful, yes, but it's the ongoing funding that we really need to make sure. I think the Cora Library is one of the most frequented libraries in the region, and as a result, we should be getting the appropriate funding for the service that the community is, obviously using. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neagle. Councillor Law.
And our library is not just about books. It's a very important institution that we have with children, preschool children. There's movies you can hire, there's audio books, there's all sorts of things in our library. And for the government to say we must fund the library and then not give us any assistance is really very tough. And I am sure that everybody in the room feels in agreement with the motion that's been passed.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillor Thomas.
So, between myself and my fellow Councillor Law, we're actually delegate on our library. So we actually are really privileged to go to the meeting, and I've been to two, and Councillor Law is just about to go to the state meeting, which will be fabulous, because she'll have to come back with even more information for us, which is really good. So the two meetings I was able to go to, both in Wagga, or hosted in Wagga, was our local one, which was part of the Riverina Regional Library Service, and then the next one from that, the next level up, for better word, is the South West Slopes, which was only last week. So to engage get a clear understanding of the funding and what we're trying to achieve, is that they really want to double the funding, they want to index the funding, and they want to protect the funding through changes in state legislation, because as it sits at the moment is that you've got metropolitan councils versus your rural and regional, and we're all sitting at $1.85 per person. So that is not a reflection of the use of those services, so that's why it needs to be indexed. Now I have some information for you, and I hope you all wear these with pride when you go and engage at your various meetings around the countryside. So there is the report from Jan Health. So when you're meeting with the Greg Uplands and the other people in the world, you're going to be wearing these badges. Okay, anytime.
We'll put it on the hour.
Whatever you like, and one's for our deputy as well. And I would really like to, as part of that recommendation, move forward and actually get some more letters of support. And those letters of support come from our joint organisation, which we're going to get clarification to see if Leeton have actually already moved that recommendation or not. But we need to get that to come through. And we've also got to start thinking about our community groups that might be using our libraries, like our preschools, like maybe our mobile preschool service. Also, looking for letters of support. I'm thinking about CWA. You think about the strong advocacy that CWA has when it's moving its motions up through the ranks to get through to New South Wales State Parliament. So if we can start broadening out who we're targeting to move forward with this campaign, would be brilliant. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas, and thank you for that page. Is anything further, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
And a recommendation to apply for common steel for 2 leases that we're proposing to enter into. Read it, how long, what expected to plan site.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. And thank you very much. Thank you for that report. I'll now ask, would someone like to suspend standing on the slate, moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour? Against? Carried. Oh, good.